Hey everybody in Serial Killer Country, my name is Brittany Ransom.
And my name is Brian Joyner.
And this is When Killers Got Caught, a podcast devoted to deep dives into the lives and psyches of the killers we love to learn about. Each week we'll discuss something new and interesting in the serial killer world, or in case this week, more like interesting in the true crime world. And then we will discuss a well-known or lesser-known serial killer, go into their childhood lives, methodology, and most importantly, how they got caught. And then, because most serial killer fans love a little spook, I know I do, Brian will lead us down the path of the paranormal, or just something that he thought was kind of creepy. So this week, we decided to try something a little bit different, because serial killer news can sometimes get a little bit stale. And we've decided to, separate from each other, find a true crime story that made us go, what the heck? Or just made us laugh this week. And then I will be discussing Sarah Maria Aldrete and Adolfo Constanza's drug smuggling and human sacrifice cult.
Ooh.
Called the Los Narcosatanicos.
Oh, wait. You say Constanza?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think I've heard this one.
Yeah. I came across a book and the first book was like 300 pages, and then the guy re-released it in 2014. His name is Hume, and it's now a 500-page book with a lot more information on this.
Oh my goodness. What?
And 1990 is when they got caught.
Okay.
So that was just I've never done a podcast on a cult. I don't go too deep into cult stuff.
Oh, right. Yes, I remember. Yes.
So this was a lot of information, and I will say to anyone listening, buy the book. Like, go download the book or get it sent to you via like PDF, because I can download books for free on my Kindle. I had to give you all a more sanitized version of the things that these men did.
I was about to say there's going to be big trigger warning.
Yeah, I had to very much sanitize the message and the story, because a lot of the ritual killings, they go into absolute incredible detail, like just gruesome stuff. And I decided not to go that route and just talk about them and why they started the cult, where they came from. I do discuss the murders, but not nearly as graphically as the book did.
The only things I remember from hearing about it is that they use it in Ganga, and then there's some guy, he's named Catman.
I didn't have that name, but that's fine. The book that I first found was called Buried Secrets, A True Story of Drug Running, Black Magic, and Human Sacrifice. That was released in 1991, a year after everyone was found out and put in jail. That's from Edward Humes. And then in 2014, he released another book called Buried Secrets, A True Story of Serial Murder. That's about the same crime, but a lot more detail. It's meticulously researched, these books. So I like both of them. And also I first even read about them from a book by Charlotte Grieg called Evil Serial Killers, The Mind of Monsters. Ooh. And that was like a smaller blurb. You know, I keep looking up anthology books on serial killers just to see if I can find out more information about new people. But yeah, so that's who I'm going to be talking about. And then this week you are diving deeper into
the Warrens. I'll be covering one of their cases, and then one of their cases.
Just one?
Just one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty long, and I was like, it's going to be a while, and we're probably going to just talk about it, so.
Well, that's very interesting, too, because, I mean, I know a lot of these cases, but I don't think I've done really big deep dives into them. Yeah. I remember reading the Amityville book when I was in college.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure some people may have heard this story
but
before,
none of the other stories that they've made movies about have I actually read the source material for.
Oh, well, you should read Annabelle. It's pretty interesting.
Wait, they did a whole book on Annabelle?
I'm pretty sure they did a book about it, and then it's in the book, The Demonologist.
I know about that story. I mean, I'm a frequenter of their website. I like to look at the haunted toys.
But yeah, I got this story from actually not the book, but there's an actual book about this story, and apparently there's a freaking movie about it too. Yeah,
because The Conjuring had its own book. I just never read it. I didn't know anything about that story until the movie came out.
Yeah, same.
So that was an interesting factor. But we challenged ourselves to find a true crime story this week that was just interesting. And so this came from the weekend of March 18th, 2021. And the headline is just, videos shows suspect casually pulling grandfather's ear out of pocket.
Oh, right. No,
you saw this one? Because it's ridiculous.
I read this last week on the Daily Mail. I think it's what it was.
This happened this past week, I think.
Oh, was it?
Let's see. This was past week. Of course, it happened in Florida because Florida, Lake County, Florida. There was a call Saturday night from not the person who did the killing. And it just said, I want to report an incident here. Vietnam vet attacked a man. He said he had to defend himself. It got out of control. Okay. So the police show up. And this is, you can watch this. It's all via chest cam. And they start asking this guy, hey, where are your family members? And so he casually reaches into his pockets and pulls 2 bloody somethings out of his pockets. And they're like, what is that? And then the other guy goes, those are ears. And you can hear the cop. He is so not feeling this at all.
Yeah.
If we're calling 911, apparently this guy Parker had called his friend, and the friend is the one who called the 911 team in. And that friend was like, he called me. He sounded high out of his mind. I was like, is Pops there? Are you all right? He goes, Pops is done. He tried to attack me and I killed him.
Right. So,
moments after that, they say that Parker tried to reach for, he asked the police officer for his gun, I'm guessing to end himself.
Right.
And then when they didn't give him the gun, he tried to take it. So they had to taser him and
of course,
boop him on the ground, as they do. But then they noticed that as they were looking him over, his story doesn't really match the 911 story. So he said that they were smoking a bowl at the kitchen table, and that all of a sudden his grandfather just reached for a knife and and swung at him, and he was just I just had to defend myself, and now he's sitting here dead. So
that's not funny. It's just the way you said it.
It's funny because it's so fucking ridiculous. At the scene, the deputies are like, well, hold out your hands. So they take a couple pictures. He has 0 defensive wounds. Nothing, which is if someone's stabbing you, you're going to put your hands up.
Yeah.
So after he gets arrested, he admits while he's handcuffed, no, I hit him with a baseball bat a couple times. Then I stabbed him.
Oh my God.
And he says, I wanted him to be with my grandmother. It was time for him to go. And then he mentioned after that he cut off his ear.
Yeah, I think when they were putting him they were putting him in the car or something, he's like, don't you want to know what happened to his ears? And and then he pulls them out of his pocket.
He just was here, and he when he pulls him out, I think he wasn't cuffed yet because he was sitting on the edge, the back end of a truck.
Okay, there you go.
And he just pulls him out of his pocket is just like that. And you could see in the video, they blur out what's in his hands. Yeah. But it's still very much he's just sitting here with ears in his hands.
Why the ears?
But when they put him in the car, he says I just wanted him to be with my grandmother. And I'm like, buddy, what is wrong with you?
But why the ears? Why cut off both of them too?
I have never heard of that as a disrespectful thing, but maybe, who knows?
That took some time. I mean, probably
also,
not.
This might be the first time I've ever heard of somebody getting high off of weed and doing a crazy crime.
Yeah, that must have been something.
Normally, that's not how that works.
It must have been laced with something, definitely, because you know.
Yeah, because this sounds like maybe a little bit of PCP. This sounds like a PCP kind of crime, not a. Normally, when people get high, they just get real chill.
You're either chill and insightful.
Yeah, they get fake deep. Fake deep is what I like to call it. Not truly insightful. Just.
Well, yeah, fake. Okay, yeah, fake deep. I guess we want to call it that.
I feel like you're probably only gonna get real insight from people who are insightful when they're sober.
This is true too.
People who aren't insightful when they're sober, definitely are insightful when they're high.
I'm insightful when I'm drunk, so.
We will just have to see that one day.
You
told me you get silly and you dance.
Okay, first of all, those are different drunks. I'm talking about chill drunk.
You did get when you were drinking beer that one time, you got really cutesy silly. It was adorable.
I don't remember what you're talking about.
I remember it. Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Yes. Whatever. I remember. Whatever.
But anyway, I am ready. You tell me your true crime story you found this week.
Okay. So this one's actually an old story.
Okay.
It happened a year ago. I'm just there are just different charges on it now.
New developments in the case.
Sort of, yeah. Okay, so this is a crime of passion. Or a passionate crime.
Your face makes me believe you don't believe this.
Okay, so it's a Louisiana priest and 2 dominatrices. They were caught having a threesome in a church. And on a church altar. I guess it's in it. It was in a church.
Okay.
Yeah, so
just the sacrilegious trifecta there.
There you go. Yeah, so he's a priest and you got 2 dominatrices and they're having a threesome. They're filming a threesome.
For like OnlyFans? Like what was this?
I think it was just for him.
Okay.
So yeah, so earlier, like last year,
this become a murder?
It's not a murder.
Oh, okay.
It's just a crime.
Oh, okay.
It's just a crime. There was no murders here. Nobody killed anybody. So yeah, they were originally charged as what was it? Charged as obscenity. With obscenity. They were charged with obscenity. And now they're being charged with vandalism.
Oh.
And this is just updated. So yeah. They were caught last year after a passerby spotted the group through a window and they contacted the police. But
I guess they felt like their church was being defiled.
Of course, yeah. And the priest, that's his church.
Yeah, that's a whole different situation.
Yeah, it says that officers recovered sex toys, lighting, and recording equipment when they were arrested. So
that's the worst part. Like you were filming?
Yeah, that was. I'm pretty sure it was just for his own uses.
You know what? That made me think about the fact that didn't OnlyFans just remove all of the videos of people that had done like outdoor stuff because they couldn't confirm whether it had been done like legally or not.
Oh, really? I did not hear about that.
Yeah, that happened in the last like couple of weeks, and people were upset because they didn't inform the performers, like the people on the thing, that they were going to remove those videos. And like, of course, I'm like, well, outside could be like, you know, out in your own backyard.
Yeah, in your backyard.
But of course, in other situations, people are trying to like get shock factor and, you know, make videos near schools and things of that nature. So in an attempt to avoid.
That's a charge.
Yeah, essentially to avoid what these girls got in trouble for.
Yeah, no, that's what do you get registered as a sex offender if you do it?
Listen,
on a playground by a school. Oh my goodness!
You get registered for a sex offender if you pee in public in a kid's.
This is true too.
So
if on a playground, if you pee on a playground, you will be charged as a sex offender because you just whipped your thing out.
Wow.
But yeah,
that was OnlyFans trying not to get in trouble for what those girls got in trouble for.
But they weren't doing it outside; they were doing it inside.
They were doing it in a public place.
It wasn't.
Ugh! Can you imagine? Like you see the video, you know that's your church. You know exactly which tapestry is hanging behind the altar. You can see it.
But that's if they are posting it on OnlyFans. Who knows what they're going to do with the video?
They always post that creepy shit online. You know exactly what I mean. That was going to end up on one of them websites.
Oh my God, yes.
Mm-hmm. And then can you imagine you're like scrolling through like, I don't know, whatever the website you like to watch is. There's a million of them at these point.
I try not to use those websites.
I know because they don't pay people, but
exactly.
You're scrolling through and you're like, oh, look at this. Priest with 2 nuns. And then you click on, that's my church.
Oh.
I sit on that pew.
They weren't role playing.
I know they weren't role playing, but people always
They weren't.
So wait, so was he still wearing his collar? Or
I think he was just like dressed normally, and they were dressed up in their dominatrix.
So it was just the location for him. Oh, this has got some kind of creepy serial killer vibes.
He was probably just bored, you know, because that's where he works. He's a priest there,
right? So he wanted the memory of. Whenever he's like at church giving a sermon, he can think about the fact that right there in the middle of the aisle, like right where you get your communion from, Mary, I was getting double teamed by 2 ladies. That's what that was.
He's being spit roasted.
You know he was.
Oh my God. I didn't think of that, but yes, that's probably why. I mean, hey, you got to spice it up. You're bored at work. You got to.
I cannot. I work with children. I cannot be bored at work.
Different for you. My goodness.
I surely hope you aren't either. You're supposed to be giving life-saving.
Oh no, I don't do
services to people.
Come on, I'm driving all.
Thank you. You're delivering like life-saving blood to people.
And I go to hospitals all the time. Yes, I'm going to find some way to get to the hospital. Somebody's. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Oh goodness.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, you know a little bit about the Narcosatanicos, so
yeah, but it was months ago when I heard about this. So please, I'll try my best not to.
That's okay. But as we get into this, I will start like I normally do with talking about the people, but I'm going to do it in a slightly different order today. But I'm going to talk about our main cult leader first, Adolfo Jesus Constanza. He was born in Miami, Florida, November 1st, 1962. And he was the son of a 15-year-old Cuban immigrant, Delia Aurora Gonzalez del Val. And he was the first of her 3 children, all from 3 different fathers. When he was 6 months, Delia had him blessed by a Haitian priest of Palomayambe, accepting the priest's judgment that her son was a chosen one who was destined for great power. Adolfo was still an infant, and his mother moved to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and he got baptized as a Catholic there and served briefly as an altar boy. But that was more of a cover for the family. Their true religion was a bit darker. His mother immersed herself in Palomayambe, and she taught her son as well. And then she got other magic practitioners to continue his education in both San Juan and Haiti. In 1972, when he was 10, the family returned to Miami, and he started a full-time apprenticeship with a Haitian priest from Little Havana.
Oh, so he was getting into it. He was learning about all that stuff.
Like serious learning about this stuff. Now, Adolfo's mom has a pretty serious criminal history, and pretty much during his adolescence, she was arrested about 30 different times. All crimes related to making money for the family: trespassing, shoplifting, check fraud, grand theft. But also, apparently, at some point, they charged her with child neglect. I'm guessing because she wasn't home, she was out trying to find ways to make money.
Right.
Even though she kept getting arrested, nothing stuck, and she always got away with only probation. Something she credits her son's magical work for. Since they had so many issues, they would move a lot. Pretty much whenever they couldn't pay the rent, they would move to a new house. And whenever they left a home vandalized, bloodstained, full of animal sacrifices. The neighbors were sure she was a witch, but no one dare challenge her, or you'd find a headless goat on your doorstep as a warning.
Yeah, that's a hex for you right there.
Mm-hmm. Adolfo followed in his mother's footsteps well into his teens, but he also began cruising gay bars as a teen and robbing gay men.
Oh.
He was a terrible student, and he graduated the bottom of his high school, dropped out of college after failing his first semester. He just didn't care about anything other than the dark arts. And he pretty much turned to his longtime mentor and devoted all of his time and energy to studying magic at this point. He was like, screw college. I'm going to be a bruja.
Yes.
Together, they began robbing graves for items for ceremonies, made voodoo dolls of their enemies. Now, I have to pause here because I want to stop and explain that Palo is an African diasporic religion created by displaced Africans who were in Cuba. Africans displaced for the same reasons that Africans in America were displaced, the transatlantic slave trade. But this is not voodoo or voodoo, which is more Louisiana-based,
right.
South of America. This is actually a mixture of the traditional Congo religion in Central Africa, Catholicism, and spiritualism. So it kind of works within the world of Catholicism. So when they say that they are, making sacrifices to demons and things, they're pulling from Catholicism as well.
Okay, those kinds of demons, not voodoo demons.
Right.
Okay.
Not like what we would think of as voodoo or like Santeria.
No Papa Legba.
No Papa Legba in Palo Mayombe. Now, Mayombe is one of the 3 traditions. There's 3 different traditions, and of course I didn't write all 3 of them down. But and Mayombe is interesting because it does not believe in white magic or dark magic. Instead, every individual practitioner is called to follow your own path without judgment. So it is up to you as you learn about the religion to decide if you want to be doing more dark practices or focus on more positives.
Okay. Just like a witch. Got it.
Many drug dealers trust the practitioners of Palo Mayombe to protect their enterprises. So this is very popular in Mexico. Interestingly enough, Adolfo's grandfather, who also believed in this stuff too, had some words of advice for him as he was, kind of coming into his own in his early 20s. He said, "Let the non-believers with the drugs. We will profit from their foolishness." And so his grandfather instilled in him the concept of, listen, you can work in the drug world. Don't do drugs. That'll be the end of you.
Smart.
It's
smart
true.
words.
It's the same concept of don't get high on your own supply.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's something that he was very serious about, even when he was running his cult. Now, according to Adolfo's mother, by 1976, he was exhibiting psychic powers. And he began predicting the future. Months before the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan, Adolfo predicted that someone would try and kill the president, but he would survive. Also, during this time, he got arrested twice for shoplifting. Once was in 1981 for stealing a chainsaw. I'm guessing just, to cut animal parts.
Okay, cool.
By 1983, he had chosen his patron saint and pledged himself to Kadiampembe, which is Palo Mayombe's version of Satan. And with his grandfather's blessing, he devoted himself to the worship of all evil.
Oh, okay.
At his final initiation, he was ritually scarred with a knife, and he told his family, "My soul is dead. I have no God." And he was ready to become a leader.
Okay. Awesome. Great news.
So before I bring in the other cult leader and her life, I want to talk about the next 4 years and what they looked like for Adolfo as he kind of began to build a group of people behind him. He doesn't meet her until 1987, I believe. So it's 1983 now.
Okay.
He is considered to be a very attractive man, and he takes a job as a model in Mexico City in 1983.
There you go.
In his spare time, he reads tarot cards in the city's red light district called Zona Rosa. Before going back to Miami, he meets his first 3 recruits. Martin Quintana Rodriguez, a homosexual psychic named Jorge Montez, and Omar Araya who had been obsessed with the occult since he was about 15 years old.
Okay.
Very quickly, Adolfo seduced both Martin and Omar, essentially telling them that one of you is going to satisfy me as a woman and the other as a man, depending on my mood.
Okay, so they have no choice. They're going to be switches, right?
Pretty much. This is going to be, depending on my mood, you're going to be my woman.
Okay.
About a year later, partway through 1984, he moves to Mexico City full-time, and he moves in with both Martin and Omar. Now, interestingly enough, in the source material, I found multiple people say, like, ménage à trois. And I think that's because in 1991, they didn't necessarily have the language for what this was. But this was not a ménage à trois situation. This was much more of, like, a triad in, like, a modern polyam relationship.
I was going to say, yes, polyamorous probably.
Yeah, it was more like a polyamorous relationship. He was beginning to collect followers at this point. He had a reputation as someone who was magical. That was the big gossip in Mexico City. He offered readings, and he also did limpias, which were ritual cleansings for people who felt like they'd been cursed. None of this was free.
Of course not.
And he began stacking a sizable amount of cash in the early 80s. And so I have to say this because he did not do this for regular people. And you're going to see by the numbers.
It is for like celebrities or some stuff like that, right?
Yes. So after he died, they looked through his home and they found journals that listed the prices. And he documented about 30 of his regular customers during this time period and what they paid him. Mm-hmm. So the cleansing rituals themselves were upwards of $4,500 per ceremony.
That's okay. No, thank you.
And then there was a menu for the sacrificial animal that you wanted to be used there.
Oh, you could do a la carte? Oh, sweet.
Yes. So if you wanted roosters, they were $6 a head. Goats, $30. Boa constrictor, $450.
Oh my God.
An adult zebra, $1,100.
Where are you getting those from?
Or an African lion cub, $3,100.
You definitely not catching one of those without getting murdered yourself.
I'm guessing that some serious illegal business to somehow import a lion cub.
Oh my God! No.
He was able to get people to pay those prices because he was not dealing with regular citizens. He dealt with wealthy drug dealers first. He would give them readings and then tell them the ideal time that they should schedule their drug shipments to avoid the police, as well as offering them protection magic so that they'd be ignored by cops and bulletproof for their enemies. It was all bullshit.
Of course.
But I'll explain to you why it worked for him a little bit later. Let's a little further down. Drug dealers were raised on however, like a lot of the Mexican drug dealers were raised on the concept of brujeria, and they were already believers. So this wasn't a far stretch for them to do that. Like up here, we don't necessarily believe a brujas, as in witches like they do. Mm-hmm. We believe in different kinds of witchcraft, and there's different religions based around the concept of Wicca and things of that nature in the North America, but it's a whole different ball game south of the border.
I believe that, yeah.
There's multiple witchcraft religions. Mm-hmm. This is just one of them. According to one of Adolfo's ledgers, just one of the drug dealers who he was dealing with paid him $40,000 over a 3-year period.
Oh.
So he was, and he had 30 different customers. Uh-huh. So he was making big bucks. Now, with prices like those, his customers expected a little bit extra from what you could get from like a rural bruja. And he realized that these people who were driving fancy cars and carrying Uzis, expected a big show. So in 1985, he moves from just doing animal bones and things to using human bones. And he gets his 3 main disciples to begin grave robbing for him. Having all of the human bones at these ceremonies gave him just an air of legitimacy, and it attracted people from all over Mexican society. So now he just wasn't just bringing in drug dealers. We're talking doctors, real estate moguls, fashion models, major drag show performers, and maybe not so surprisingly, high-ranking police officers.
Of course.
Which ties in how he was able to know when those drug dealers could cross the border safely.
Of course. I mean, why would you?
Several of them joined his cult, and 2 of them were a big deal. One was Salvador Garcia Alarcon. He was a commander in charge of the narcotics division.
They had different divisions.
And then Florentino Ventura Gutierrez. He retired from the Federales to head the Mexican branch of Interpol. So in his group of cult members, you have 2 of the biggest police that you can have, just feeding him information. And these aren't the cult followers adored him. They worshipped him. They were willing to do almost anything to have his approval.
So were they dirty cops then, or just?
Well, here's the thing though. Mexico is kind of known for bribery at all levels of their justice system.
Okay, true.
This isn't crazy. But for Adolfo's disciples, they weren't in it for the money. They wanted to make him happy.
Oh, so
so he was like, when's the Rio Grande going to be clear? Mm-hmm. We're going to take boats across. And they would be able to tell him this. So he's doing these $4,500, $5,000 ceremonies with the gang member with the information that he's getting directly from the cops.
From his cult members. Got it.
So to them, they're like, well, it's right. We crossed the river. There was nobody there. There's always people there.
Yeah, no shit, because
But they don't know that.
Yeah. So of course they're going to pay for more of his services then because he got it right.
Mm-hmm. So then in 1986, the narcotics commander, Larson, introduces Adolfo to the Calzada family. And at the time, they were one of Mexico's top narcotics cartels. He very much won them over immediately. And by 1987, he was making so much money, he paid for a $60,000 condo in Mexico City in cash, bought a fleet of expensive cars. When he wasn't working for the Calzadas or other high-profile clients, he was running other scams. At one point, he posed as a DEA agent, and he ripped off another cocaine dealer from another country who was trying to come into Mexico, and then he would sell the cocaine through his police contacts at a lower rate. Because it didn't matter to him because he got it for free.
Right. He's just making money anyway.
In just a year's time, he believes that he's the reason the Calzada family is doing so well. April of 1987, he tells the Calzada family, "Make me a partner in the cartel." And they refuse.
Yes.
On the surface, he takes the rejection normal, but he begins plotting revenge. At the end of that month, April 30th, 1987, Guillermo Calzada and 6 members of his family go missing. They are reported missing the next day, and the police find candles all over the house, signs of a religious ceremony.
Oh.
Within the week, 6 days later, they begin finding the mutilated remains in the Zampango River.
Oof.
7 bodies are recovered, all horrifically tortured. Fingers, ears, toes removed, heart and genitals cut out, pieces of spine torn out of the body. 2 corpses were missing their brains. Not all of this was done while they were dead.
So what did he just sacrifice them, or is he using their body parts for like something?
He absolutely is sacrificing them.
Okay.
All those missing parts that they couldn't recover went into his cauldron, his ganga. Mm-hmm. And he was ready to dive into really doing human sacrifices at this point. But he felt like he was missing something. Mm-hmm. He wanted a partner, and he had already spotted her.
Oh.
So now we talk about La Madrina. Sarah Maria Aldrete Villarreal. She was born September 6, 1964, to an electrician in Matamoros, Mexico. She had a pretty normal childhood. She was able to attend school in the U.S., and she's remembered pretty well into her teen years in Brownsville, Texas, as just model student, straight A kid. She ended up going to a secretarial school, and all of her teachers there told her, "Yeah, you should go to a regular college.
No.
You're much better than where you are right now."
That. She was on a fast track to being a great person.
But somehow she ended up with Adolfo, but we'll get there. And she was going to. Halloween of 1983, she meets a man by the name of Miguel Zacharias. He was 30 years old and she was 19. They got married immediately, and she kind of let school fall to the wayside. And then 5 months later, they're on the path to getting a divorce. This kind of bumps her back for about 2 years. In 1985, she applies for and is given resident alien status in the U.S. She enrolls in Texas Southmost College, which is a 2-year school in Brownsville, Texas. She gets into a work-study program that's paying for part of her tuition. She begins starting classes in January 1986. She's studying physical education and has 2 part-time jobs as an aerobics teacher and an assistant secretary in her school's athletic department.
Get it, sis?
Super, she's also super tall, 6 foot tall, stacked.
Oh, damn.
6'1", actually, I believe. And obviously super athletic, very attractive woman. By the end of her first semester, she is back to being a rock star in school again. Her grades are super excellent. She's chosen as one of the top 33 students out of 6,500 on campus and listed in her school's Who's Who directory in 1987.
Awesome.
Aside from grades that have her in the honor roll, she organizes and leads the booster team for the soccer team. She wins the school's Outstanding Physical Education Award in her spare time. Even though she didn't partake in any sports, it was obviously she loved being active and contributing to her school's athletic department. After she leaves her husband, though, she moves back in with her parents in, is it Matamoros? Listen, I'm just going to say these words wrong all night, y'all. As she was an adult, she decided that she wanted her own way in and out of her house. So she built a special outdoor stairwell to her bedroom. So not only is she smart, but she's also like handy.
Yeah, she's a carpenter and everything. Oh my God.
I'm like, this is the lesbian fantasy going on in my brain right now. She came home most weekends and school vacations, and then she transferred to a 4-year school with the intention of getting a physical education teaching certificate. So this is a tall, gorgeous lady. So obviously a lot of men are interested. And she began dating a man by the name of Gilberto Sosa, a drug dealer connected to the very powerful Hernandez family.
Oh, okay.
And things were going well for them. That is, until July 30th, 1987. Sarah is driving through Matamoros when a shiny Mercedes cuts her off, almost causing an accident. The driver was apologetic, charismatic, and handsome.
Oh, God.
And his name was Adolfo Constanza.
Of course it was.
There was an instant attraction, but he didn't make any moves. He was very happy to see that both Sarah and his mother were born on the same day. He thought it was a sign that he had chosen the right one.
Of course.
Because, see, that meeting wasn't accidental at all. Adolfo had his eyes on Sosa, and he wanted to make a drug connection now that he had just murdered the Calzadas. So he set up a very carefully staged accident after watching
was he
Sosa and Sarah.
So he was like stalking?
Kind of, yeah.
For like the longest time. He was like, I'm going to make my move today. Okay.
Well, in fact, everything about their friendship in the beginning was staged. He recognized that Sarah was very smart. And he was like, I need to bring her into the religion. But he wanted to do it slowly so it didn't scare her. And he wanted to do it without making Sosa mad. So about 2 weeks after the accident, he meets Sarah in Brownsville, across the border. And Sosa's there too. He refuses to shake Sosa's hand, which is total disrespect.
Anywhere you go, that's disrespectful.
Everywhere in the world.
Yes.
Then, same night, Sosa gets an anonymous phone call telling him that Sarah is cheating on him.
Is this Adolfo?
I think he had somebody else do it. Obviously not him, since they had just met that day.
Right.
Supremely jealous, he refuses to believe her. And he breaks up with her.
Oh.
She turns to her new friend, Adolfo, for solace. And he tells her, yes, I foresaw this in my tarot cards.
Look, can I just say, you got a beautiful, tall woman who's very athletic. And someone says that she's cheating on you. Like,
you could just be like, listen, that's all right, girl.
I'd probably like, it's okay. I believe you. You say you didn't do it? Okay, that's fine.
So they spend a little bit more time together. And the two do become intimate now that she's single. But it's short-lived, as Adolfo is like, listen, I prefer men. And Sarah's like, all right. Because at this point, she's super into the religion.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he is
He's
gay.
Very gay.
So why is he going after? Why did he go after her?
I think he wanted her for her stature and her smarts. I think she was like a little bit of a bear. What's it? Not a bear. What do they call that when like a straight person marries a gay person?
Oh, I have no idea.
So you can hide. There's a name for it.
There's a name for it. I'd have to Google it, but
that's I think he kind of wanted her for that. So physically, like when they met with like some of these families, they looked like hot guy, hot girl. Also, she was just very, very smart. And she was super into the religion. Like all the stuff he was showing her, she was really into. By the end of that summer, she changed. She was already an expert on the occult and witchcraft. In private, he began calling her La Madrina, the godmother of the cult he would build.
Oh.
He got her to give up information about the Hernandez gang, telling her the leader is going to come to you for advice for a problem. And then, when the leader, Ilio, came to her in November of 1987, she introduced him to her El Padrino.
Of course. So you had that stage, probably.
Yeah, I think so, too.
This just sounds like a bad 90s movie.
Hey, listen, everything this guy did was like super creepy clever. This was the perfect timing, though, because the Hernandez family was in the middle of internal fighting and struggles over threats from outside competition. Adolfo used every magic trick he had to coerce the family that Palo Mayambe would solve all of their problems. He promised the whole shebang, that he could eliminate their enemies using sacrifices, and if they were faithful to Adolfo as his disciples, they'd become invisible to the authorities. All he needed was 50% of the business. And they agreed.
Of course. Well, they were dumb too, but...
So after this, he moves his cult to a ranch, which is called Rancho Santo Elena. It's about 20 minutes outside of Matamoros, and this is kind of when things get very sadistic. May to 28th, 1988, he shoots a drug dealer, Hector de la Fuente, and a farmer named Moises. It's Moises Castillo. I know the last name, but the first name's a little peculiar to me. He took a trip to Mexico City, where he supervised the torture and dismemberment of Raul Esquivel, the former lover of cult member Jorge Montes. That was just personal.
Of course. Yeah. He was like, you did that.
Jorge's one of my boyfriends,
yeah.
So stop that. Those remains were dumped on a public street and found by children.
Oh.
He felt that mutilation and pain were necessary for his work. He stated that the demons he served were more likely to be happy with the sacrifice if his victim died in pain.
Yeah, because you're feeding like an evil spirit.
And directly, he said, they must die screaming. That is a direct quote.
Yeah, you're feeding, like, oh my God, your evil spirit is calling for your dead bodies. So yeah. Oh my God, no. Okay.
No, it makes logical sense, honestly.
Yeah, obviously. It was just like...
Also, 1988, he began sodomizing all of his victims before they are tortured and killed.
Oh.
Yeah, throw that in there for a nice effect.
Great. Fantastic.
On August 10th, 1988, in response to an $800,000 drug ripoff, a rival gang kidnaps Ovidio Hernandez and his 2-year-old son. Adolfo's cult kidnaps a stranger 2 days later and tortures him to death at Santa Elena while praying for the release of Hernandez and his son. The hostages are released on August 13th. No ransom money has been handed over. And he took full credit for this.
So,
saying that the stranger that we obviously tortured them the right way because they were immediately returned.
Oh, yeah, of course.
No harm done to them at all.
Did they say why they released it? Not at all.
Nope.
My God.
At this point, he's becoming a living god. He's getting so big that he didn't seem to even care at all when one of his disciples committed suicide and murdered his entire family in September of that year.
Oh.
Then in November, one of his members, who was an ex-cop, broke Adolfo's drug ban. So Adolfo made him the next sacrifice to Cariempembe as a lesson to the rest of the cult. No drugs. I said no drugs.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember this part. And he had like the actual, like the cult members.
He had the cult members kill one of the other cult members because the man had used drugs.
Yeah.
He murdered competing smuggler Ezekiel Luna on Valentine's Day in 1989. Then 2 other dealers were added to that ceremony when they showed up at the ranch uninvited. They thought they were going to do something that day, and they all got murdered.
No, that's like showing up to my house without being like, letting me know first. Like, you got to call first before you head over, or else you're going to die.
In 90s after that, they kidnapped a stranger who they said, they didn't list the name, but they said that he put up such a fight that Ilya Hernandez had to shoot him. Oh. Yeah. So somebody put up a fight. On February 25th, the cultists accidentally kidnapped Jose Garcia, Ilya Hernandez's 14-year-old cousin, and killed him before they realized their mistake. But remember, at this point, like, Adolfo is just he's huge. Mm-hmm. So he's like godly to these people. So like whatever we did, it was, it was the way. It was must have had to be done.
This is the way.
If Ilya Hernandez's 14-year-old cousin got killed, that must be because that's what, the demons wanted. Mm-hmm. So it's like I said, it's 1989. He's sitting on about 800 kilos of marijuana he's stolen from another gang. He felt like he needed another sacrifice to guarantee its safe passage into Texas. So on March 13th, 1989, he grabs another stranger, but he finds that sacrifice is not sufficient. He told his members, "Bring me someone I can use, someone who will scream."
Yep.
The next morning, March 14th, 1989, they brought him Mark Kilroy, the mistake that would bring down absolutely everything Adolfo built.
Right. Yes. Because can I say, or are you going to say?
I'm going to say too. But
okay. Yeah, because he was an American.
He was an American. He was a white man.
He was a tourist, and
that was a big mistake.
Yes.
Now I haven't mentioned a whole lot about where this took place, but I feel like I should. Matamoros, Mexico is a really popular spring break destination. It's right across the Rio Grande River from Brownsville, Texas, which is a huge college area. Mm-hmm. This has been a popular college destination, like a college tourist destination, since the 1930s. It has all the illicit things that border towns have: prostitution, sex shows, alcohol, drugs, crime. And every spring, roughly 250,000 college kids descend on the area after finals to party their asses off in a foreign country.
Like you do.
Now, those who showed up in March of 1989 were not aware that in the past 2 months, just January and February, the city had logged 60 disappearances. We don't know that they would have cared because college kids are kind of foolish. But one of those students who showed up was Mark Kilroy. He was a pre-med junior from the University of Texas. He had been out partying with his friends when they lost track of each other in Matamoros in the early hours of March 14th, 1989. His friends reported his disappearance immediately to local police. Mm. Unlike the other people who'd been reported missing over the last 10 weeks, Kilroy was a white man, and he had connections. He had an uncle who worked for U.S. Customs, and immediately the family puts up a $15,000 reward for any information leading to his safe recovery. Oh. The media brings up the disappearance and murder of a man by the name of Enrique Camarena 4 years prior that had involved narcotics traffickers. Oh. So the media immediately goes, remember 4 years ago when that one guy got kidnapped and killed and he was grabbed by narcotics traffickers?
They're putting the pieces to the puzzle together.
Already. The police heat was instant, and it was not something Adolfo or his cult were at all prepared for, because no one had even cared when he'd killed the Calzada family. Like, honestly, that's because people down there didn't get mad over war between criminals. Mm-hmm. They were like, listen, you fight with the bull, you get the horns. Like, y'all are both drug dealers. Eventually, one of y'all is going to die.
Right, yeah.
So that's kind of how they looked at it. But Kilroy wasn't a criminal. Not only was he just an innocent student, but his death was going to threaten Mexico's tourism industry. And it was at this point, like, even right after it happened, on the verge of becoming an international news story. So Mexico was like, no, we cannot have this. And American officials were like, we'll let you investigate, but we're keeping an eye on things. Mm-hmm. So Matamoros began an intense and very illegal interrogation process, which involved picking up drug dealers at clubs and using carbonated water that was laced with hot sauce and spraying it up the nostrils. They did this to 127 different criminals. It must feel awful to spray bubbly, spicy things up your nose. I don't know why they did this, but this is what they did.
Is it like a torture thing?
I guess so.
That's weird. Okay.
They also held some of the people who were just fugitives in prison, but none of them had actually seen Kilroy, so no one had any information to give them. Mm. Adolfo was a little worried about the intensity of the police intervention, but he was still rather arrogant, and he had 800 kilos of marijuana to move, so he was gonna move it. For extra protection, he staged one final sacrifice at the ranch, choosing La Madrina's ex-boyfriend, Gilberto Sosa, killing him March 28th, 1989. And then the drugs were safely sent to America April 8th. And he collected $300,000 for his work and congratulated himself on being an incredible bruja.
Let me pat myself on the back real quick.
Mm-hmm. At the same time, Mexican police are busy working through like another anti-drug campaign. Kind of like how America's had the war on drugs for forever. Mexico goes through cycles of the war on drugs. So they're sweeping districts for smugglers, setting up roadblocks, doing random truck searches, things of that nature. What this did was allow them to keep the drug lords safe, which are the people who are lining their pockets, and it picks up the lower level members of the gangs and puts them in prison, which makes the people happy, like they're doing something. However, in this case, one of the people they pick up in the sweep is minor drug dealer named Serafin Hernandez Garcia, the 20-year-old nephew of Elio Hernandez. On April 1st, Serafin had driven through a police checkpoint, completely unaware of the fact that the cops are on the highway, like not even thinking about this, just they go to stop him, and he gets chased to a rundown ranch full of occult items and marijuana.
Wait, so he wasn't even a part of the cult. He just ran and made it there.
He knew about it.
But he wasn't in it.
Oh, no. Wait till you find out more about what he knew.
Oh, okay.
So it takes them about a week to get, I guess, like the warrant or whatever they needed legally to come do a search of the property. They return April 9th. I will remind you of the timeline here.
He was...
April 8th is the day that Adolfo leaves the ranch. They are one day off from finding him. But they return. They arrest Hernandez and another drug dealer who's still there, David Serna Valdez. In custody, the two were kind of relaxed, almost defiant. The police try to interrogate them, but they tell the police officers, no. There's nothing you can do to us. We're protected by a higher power, well above the laws of man.
Yes, because Adolfo told them that they were protected from the police.
The police only had a little bit of time, so they turned their attention to a ranch caretaker. The caretaker named a few other members of the Hernandez family who sometimes come there and told them it was called Rancho Santa Elena. And then they showed the caretaker a picture of Mark Kilroy, but they didn't tell the guy who he was. And the caretaker was like, oh yeah, I saw him there once. And that was all they needed. They returned to the prison with this information. Serafin is like, all right then. I was there. I helped kidnap and kill him. He told them he'd been involved in many ritual killings over the past year, telling the police that they used human sacrifices to protect drug deals.
Oh yeah, he was talking his ass off.
Oh, it gets worse. Then Serafin says the leader of the cult is El Padrino, the master of Palo Mayambe.
Oh my God.
And he also tells them that El Padrino likes to sodomize the victims and then harvest their organs after the cult members kill them.
Whoa, ain't that a quinky dink? We got so many of these bodies that have been sodomized.
Well, they don't have any of the bodies
yet. I know.
So the police go, well, what if we take you to the ranch? So both Hernandez and Valdez go there. And Hernandez shows them where the cult has a private cemetery, which they dig up and find 12 bodies, all men, some shot at close range, others hacked to death by machetes. But they found the one they were looking for, Mark Kilroy. His skull was split open and his brain was missing. The detectives continue searching the property, where they find the shed.
Oh, with the nganga.
Yes, they did. They found the nganga brimming with blood and animal remains. Had 28 sticks in it, one for each member of the cult to use to communicate with the spirits of the afterlife. There were many items in the pot. Scorpions, spiders, organs. But they did eventually find Mark Kilroy's brain. With this information, I think the police realized this isn't a regular guy. We are hunting for someone who's very delusional, very wealthy, well-connected, and surrounded by people who are devoted to him and willing to die for him. The only thing they couldn't figure out was, where is he?
Just to hear.
Like, he was here yesterday.
Oh my God.
Well, let's bounce back to April 9th. Remember that whole protective shield of magic he'd promised people? It sort of ended that day. And 4 members of the Hernandez family are caught smuggling before they could bring back the rest of the cash from that big $800,000 deal. They fully search the ranch on April 11th, and they find 15 victims over the course of the next 6 days. Besides those first 12, they find 3 more in a nearby orchard. Adolfo is on the run with Sarah and his 2 male lovers, Martin and Omar, and the Hernandez family hitman named Alvaro de Leon Valdez, and his nickname is just El Dubai. Their initial plan was to go to Miami, but friends and the police tell him that the DEA has already been informed that his mom lives in Miami. So the U.S. police are already swarming Florida, thinking you're going to come here. The discoveries at the ranch are big news in the United States. Like, in fact, Geraldo Herrera airs a special, like, primetime 8 p.m. show about this case and the ranch. Journalists from all over the world are flying down to Matamoros to do stories about Adolfo and the cult. Now, like most things that happen when it becomes a news story in the United States, that messes things up.
So much.
Once it was on TV, police are inundated with calls about sightings of Adolfo all over the states. Some people said they saw him in Chicago with the Windy City Gang. People are claiming they saw Sarah near schools looking for white children to sacrifice.
Oh my God.
For the 10 of her disciples who are currently in prison. Yes, it actually said like the gringo children. An alternative church that just was like anti-Christianity actually got burned down in Far Texas, because there was a rumor spread that they were actually witches aligned with Adolfo's cult.
Oh my God.
Like, all I could say is, like, looking through, like, some of these articles, is this was a total shit show.
Yeah. It was crazy.
But the Mexican police were like, no, we don't think he's in America. We think he's still in Mexico. And they were right. Now, the police in Texas did do something good. So, Serafin Hernandez Sr. got arrested at a safe house in Houston, Texas, and they seized weapons and cash but found no occult items there. So they now have 2 higher level, well, they have a higher level Hernandez and a lower level Hernandez who's just talking.
They're running at the mouth.
But they were very much mystified that El Padrino and his closest allies had vanished. Almost like magic. You knew I had to do it. Listen, you're not the only one who can make crappy puns. But regardless, in hiding, Adolfo is reading his tarot cards, and he reads that he's been betrayed. That's April 18th, 1989, the day after Serafin Sr. gets caught.
Okay.
At that point, he's like, okay, Serafin Sr. sold me out. And now he's just thinking of all of his drug dealer friends, and he doesn't trust any of them.
But you shouldn't.
He keeps an Uzi on him at all times, only sleeping for like a couple minutes at a time. He tells his followers with him, you can't leave me. They cannot kill you, but I can. On April 22nd, local arsonists burn Rancho Santo Elena, specifically the area where the cult activity happened. They burn that shed to the ground. Adolfo's watching on TV, and he is enraged. Not only was it burned down, but then the local police decide to do an on-air exorcism of the property. Full on reading the rites, sprinkling holy water all over the field and the cemetery where the bodies were kept.
And I think they did that because they knew he was going to be watching somewhere.
Yep. That's like straight out of the pages of like Criminal Minds, the TV show, doing something to make the killer so angry that they mess up. Like he smashed lamps, trashed the apartment they were staying in. April 24th, that's 2 days later, Jorge Montes is out trying to steal things. He's not with Adolfo. At this point, all of the random cult members are kind of scattered. Okay. Yeah, he's just trying to survive. He can't go back to where he's been living at the ranch, so he has nowhere else. So, interestingly enough, he gets caught about 3 blocks from where the Calzada family had been killed in 1986. Just like everyone else who'd been caught at this point, Montez tells them everything he knows. And like this time he's just like, he's not even like, it's not Al Padrino. His name is Adolfo Constanza, and he's my boyfriend.
Oh, shit.
April 27th, Adolfo and his 4 remaining friends, the only people he can trust, settle into their last safe house because he destroyed the other one in a fit of rage. Mm-hmm. This is an apartment in Mexico City. Sarah is actually kind of freaked at this point, and so she writes a note and throws it out of the bedroom window. And it says, "Please call the judicial police and tell them that in this building are those that they are seeking. Tell them that a woman is being held hostage. I beg for this because what I want most is to talk, or they are going to kill the girl."
Oh.
A local man finds this letter, but he thinks it's a prank.
Of course.
And he keeps it to himself. They only find out about it after what goes down at the apartment goes down.
Oh, so he could have.
Upstairs, Adolfo's like, all right, we're going to make a big move soon. And we're going to take this money that I have and we're going to move to another area and start fresh. New cult, bring this all back up. Mm-hmm. And he tells them they'll never take me. Everything goes fine for the next week and a half. Until May 6, 1989. The police had been searching the city, going door to door because there was a child missing in the neighborhood. It was a completely unrelated case, but Adolfo was so paranoid that when he saw the cops standing outside of the apartment building, he just panics and he opens fire on the police who are standing outside the apartment. Uh-huh. Within minutes, roughly 180 cops swarm the building.
Oh, damn.
They return fire for about 45 minutes.
He got instant 5 stars on GTA for that.
Pretty much, yeah. This is like in GTA when you rob that bank and it's like the most stars you can have and it stays 5 stars for real long.
Yeah. That's what he got.
Interestingly enough, I don't know if they were just all terrible shots or they were just had good hiding spots, because the only cops who got harmed in this whole process were the ones that Adolfo shot before they knew he was there.
Okay. He was just firing.
He was just firing randomly. At some point, after about 45 minutes, he realizes he's not going to be able to escape. So he hands his weapons to El Dubai and he says, he gives Dubai new orders. So El Dubai told the police later, "He told me to kill him and Martin. I told him I couldn't do it, but he hit me in the face and threatened that everything would be bad for me in hell. Then he hugged Martin, and I just stood in front of them and shot them with a machine gun." By the time the police stormed the apartment, Adolfo and Martin were dead, slumped over in a closet. Adolfo was dressed like he was just about to go out for a beach day.
Of course.
Pretty normal. El Dubai, Oreo, and Sarah were arrested and put in jail. El Dubai happily told the police, "I killed them. But the Godfather will not be dead for long." Of course, the Mexican court system is less worried about the rise of zombie Adolfo. And they were like, how do we pin all these cult murders onto these 3 people?
Yeah.
El Dubai's case was simple. He had already admitted to killing Adolfo and Martin. But Sarah was posing herself as a victim. And she leaned real hard into it. She said she didn't see Adolfo die. She hadn't seen any of those 15 victims murdered. She had no idea who Mark Kilroy was. She told them that she'd only learned about the murders on TV when Adolfo had pulled her and taken her away. I learned about it with you and the rest of the nation. I think where she made her mistake was probably answering too many questions. And she made it aware that she knew entirely too much about the cult's rituals to be considered completely innocent at this point.
Right.
The newspaper's articles I looked at defined her as being very charming when she was interviewed publicly about the crimes. But there was an article in the Los Angeles Times, and they got someone from the Mexican Attorney General's office to talk to them, completely anonymous. And he said, "She's not what you think." The person who their anonymous source told them that Sarah had different personas. Her camera persona denied all wrongdoing or even knowledge of the killings, But then when she talked to them in private, to the police, she was knowledgeable and she gave detailed information about things that the cult did, but she also requested mercy. And then they said there was a third persona that they only noticed when she thought she was alone and talking to herself.
Uh-oh.
When she was alone, they said it was like she had lost touch with reality. And they started referring to that third persona as the witch, thinking that was more of who she really was. So when she was with the police, she was trying to be extra helpful and hoping that they would take like pity on her and give her some mercy since she was giving them information.
Right.
Publicly, I think she was trying to maybe skew the jury and make her seem like a victim.
But she's smart, so.
And then by herself, like she's talking to herself in her cell, not realizing there's cameras, people are always listening.
Right.
With all this information, they do manage to detain about 14 cult members, all who get indicted on multiple weapons charges, narcotics charges, murder, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, you name it. But the trials were full of some real interesting testimony. I'm just going to read one of the quotes for you. Carlos Tapia, he was the chief deputy of Cameron County, Texas. He said, "I thought in my 22 years of law enforcement, I had seen everything. I hadn't. As we drew near, you could smell the stench. Blood and decomposing organs in a big cast iron pot were pieces of human bodies and a goat head with horns." So it's kind of hard to be like, I had no idea what happened here when the foul smell from the sacrifice
it's just in the air
shed could be smelled from the road.
That's terrible. Oh my God.
But first, Dubai was convicted of killing Adolfo Constanza and Martin Quintana and received a 35-year sentence. Then of the cultists, Juan Fragasa and Jorge Montes were both convicted of killing Raul Esquivel and given 35 years. That was Montes' ex-boyfriend, the one that they brutally murdered.
Right.
Omar Oreo died from AIDS before he could be sentenced. Then we move on to Sarah Aldrete.
Oh, here we go.
So she was acquitted of Adolfo's murder, but she was sentenced in 1990 with I've never heard of this before, but it's called criminal association. And she got a 6-year sentence.
Wait.
Essentially, they were saying we can't prove that she did anything, but she knows too much.
Right. So
it was called criminal association. She was put in prison for 6 years.
Guilty by association?
However, the jury and the locals didn't believe her story about not knowing what was going on. So while she's in prison for her first charge, she gets charged with murder alongside 4 other members of the cult. And they give her 62 years this time in 1994.
Ooh.
Now, do you remember Elio Hernandez and Serafin Jr.? Who both just sang like canaries?
Yes.
You would think that maybe that would give them a lesser...
No.
Nope.
No.
67 years for both of them.
Nice.
Mexico does not apparently give a damn if you testify against your friends. In the States and in Canada, we'd be making deals. If you give up information.
You just helped us out, but guess what? Fuck you anyway.
Nope, not in Mexico.
I love it. It's fantastic.
And then here's the best part. So Sarah's currently still in prison. And there's been talks of potentially paroling her or whatever.
Oh, right now?
In the past. Like,
okay.
She's still in prison, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she's given a 62-year sentence in 1994.
Yeah.
So she's set to be in prison for quite some time.
I know she got all
but here's the best part. The United States has made it very clear if she or Elio Hernandez or Serafin Jr. are released before their 67-year sentences are done, they absolutely intend to extradite them to America and prosecute them again, this time for Mark Kilroy's death.
Oh, damn. Yes, there you go.
Because that one has never been done yet.
Really?
So they didn't want to double jeopardy it.
What do you mean?
They got them for other crimes.
Wait.
In Mexico. America hasn't had a chance to charge them for a crime against an American.
But Mexico, they did it already?
What's interesting, too, because 3 of the bodies that they found on the ranch couldn't be identified.
Okay.
So those 3, they couldn't be charged. Like, obviously a murder happened, but we don't know who these people are.
Right. Oh, God. So if they get out And like,
but if they get out in like 30 more years, like America's like, no. We will gladly put her in jail again.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Which it makes you feel good. Bad guys got caught, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seems like it's over.
It's not over, is it?
Well, it's not over because, see, they only found 15 bodies on the ranch. And remember how I said up to that point they had already had 60 disappearances?
Mm-hmm.
There were a host of cult-related crimes that continued in that city. In fact, while in prison, Sarah said, I don't think the religion will end with us because there are a lot of people still in it.
Yeah, that's usually how cults work.
They found a temple in Monterey that wasn't related to us. This will continue. And she was kind of right, because between 1987 and 1989, Mexico City police reported 74 unsolved ritual killings. 14 of them involved infants.
Oh.
Alfonso's cult is only suspected of 16 of those cases. A lot of them involve children or teenagers, but there's just not enough evidence.
Mm.
The prosecutor who, against the cult, his name is Guillermo Ibarra, said, we would like to say, yes, Constanza did all of them. And poof, all of those cases are solved. The fact is, we believe he was responsible for some of them, though we'll never prove it now.
Right.
But he didn't commit all of those murders, which means somebody else did. Someone who is still out there. And cult activity is something that still happens in 2021.
Oh, yeah. No, it's still going on.
Like I said, I did mention earlier before I started, the main source material for this section today are both two books from the same author, Edward Humes. Buried Secrets, a true story of drug running, black magic, and human sacrifice. And then Buried Secrets, a true story of serial murder, as well as a book called Evil Serial Killers, The Minds of Monsters by Charlotte Greig.
Ooh.
But yeah, that was my first cult.
Great job.
Intense. But like I said, like if you really are into the gore and the horror aspect of the story, you will find it in those books.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, I didn't want to do that kind of a podcast.
We're not that kind of podcast. This is kind of clean, but it's sort of clean, not really clean. We talk about everything, but, not that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just brutal.
I don't know how to explain it.
But now I totally want to, look up Catman, because that didn't come up in any of my research.
I think that's what his name was. I forget what his
one of the names of one of the cult members?
Yeah, what his nickname was, because that's the only one I actually remembered.
Of course you did. You love cats.
Do not love cats. Cats suck. Who are you talking about?
Well, now that we talked about people who thought they were talking to demons, let's talk about some people who actually talked to demons.
I mean, it's kind of the same. People who think they're talking to demons, too.
I feel like Ed was actually doing something and not sacrificing.
This is true. He wasn't sacrificing people.
But he probably dealt with places where people did the kind of stuff that Adolfo Constanza did. I mean, I feel like that kind of stuff destroys a property. Can you imagine buying the ranch? I don't think I would.
No, not at all.
That's the kind of thing that I would have to have people come through and be like, all right, mediums, can this area be fully cleansed of the horrors that happen here? And if they say no, I'm like, guess we gotta find another house.
Definitely. I'm sorry. I knew I forgot to do something. Hold on one second.
What did you forget to do?
Just to make a note.
Oh.
Okay, never mind. I did make a note. Okay.
Okay, then. So I am ready.
Okay.
You said last week was a gift to you.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Warrens, so.
Well, here we go. Oh, well, I'll give you another gift this week.
All right.
By finishing up this.
Okay.
And who knows, maybe down the line I'll cover another one of their cases, but I'm only doing one today because this is a long one and there are some other things I want to talk about after this too. So, well, we're back with part 2. The Warrens. Just a recap for those who didn't listen to the first part of this.
That would be podcast 11 about Foulon. Foulon de Vie.
There you go.
And I think I called it Foulon de Vie, the Bandit Queen, and America's Favorite Demonologist.
Yes, that was the name of it. Foulon. Anyway. So I'm gonna wait, hold on. Goodness, I skipped all way down my notes. I'm sorry. Oh, I got glasses for no reason. Okay. So like I was saying, whoever didn't listen to the first part, I just went into the background of these paranormal researchers, and hopefully I won't have to go any further into their backgrounds. So I can just jump into the good stuff.
Things we talked about, like how they met and when. Yeah. Okay, so because Lorraine is clairvoyant.
Yes.
That was an important distinction because I always just thought of her as a medium.
No, she's clairvoyant / sensitive. Like, okay. Yes. There is something I want to mention.
Okay.
That I missed last week.
Okay.
That was in the book. So after recording last week, I went home and and I watched The Conjuring 2.
Oh.
And
well, I fell asleep multiple times trying to watch it.
I wanted some motivation to finish writing this. So
okay.
I was like, let me watch something scary. Oh, The Conjuring 2 is on Netflix. Let me watch that. So throughout the movie, you'll see an evil spirit demon who is that looks like a nurse.
Right, the nun.
I mean, not a nun.
The nun.
Yes, the nun from the movie The Nun. Now,
she's referenced in the book?
Not her, but it just reminded me of something that happened to Ed when he was a child. So, early in his life, he would have dreams of a nun. And he would go to his father and he describes, what this nun looks like in detail. And he's like, oh, that's your aunt. Okay. And
well, that's nice.
Yeah. Like he never met her before she died.
A lot of kids talk that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Cassandra.
Did she talk about family members?
Oh, yes.
My one cousin used to do that. She would talk about my grandpa. She would actually get mad at him.
Oh, yeah?
We would hear her in the other room being like, I just want to play. Can you leave me alone? And I guess he wanted to talk to her and she was not having it. Mm-hmm. And then one night I was staying on the couch and she came over to me and I was like, sleep. Everybody was asleep. It was like middle of the night. And she was just like, can I lay with you too? And I was like, two? We're just going to pretend nothing's here and nobody's here.
Yeah, sure. Just lay next to me. I mean, leave a space. Whoever, lay wherever you want to. I don't care. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, she saw a lot of things when she was little.
Oh,
scary.
Goodness. So, the important part in the story is that she speaks to him in one of these dreams, and she tells him that he will tell many priests the right road to go down, but he will never be a priest himself.
Oh, okay.
And he never did become one.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that was just a nice little premonition dream that his dad.
Well, it wasn't a premonition from him; it was a premonition from his family.
Yeah, so
he's still not clairvoyant.
Okay, but still.
I'm just thinking about things, thinking out loud over here.
So before I start the story, do you know what clinical lycanthropy is?
I know what lycanthropy is. I didn't know there was a...
Okay.
What?
Well, for those of you who don't know, it's a rare psychiatric syndrome. It's also called a delusional misidentification of the self. So basically, the person suffering from this either thinks they can or have turned into a werewolf, or that they are a wolf.
Oh, no.
Yes.
That sounds like a bad time.
So, yeah. That's a thing. Now, what if the person in question is suffering from something else, like demonic possession?
Well, one thing that I do know from watching a little bit of their stuff and hearing from them is that they normally requested that people go through all the normal channels, like go to a therapist, go to a doctor before you come to us, right. Get your house inspected by a plumber, think about go through all of the normal channels before we come to your house. Mm-hmm. Because some of that stuff can be
it's
explained away by mental illness.
Exactly.
So, I mean, so this is after all of that has been exhausted.
Yeah. So, and like, what if it's demonic possession and like the demon makes this person act like a beast, a wolf in this case? Well,
oh, I definitely have never heard of this case before.
I will tell you a tale, and you decide what you believe.
All right.
So, I'm just gonna start.
Yeah. Yes. Go.
It's December 5th, 1983. A young police officer is getting ready for his shift. He's brand new to the force. Like, this is his very first day.
Oh, like Leon Kennedy.
Like, no, not his very first day. His very first week. My bad. On the job. This morning he feels like something is off. Like his wife, like she can sense it in him too.
Okay.
Because they've known each other for long. You know.
Yeah.
You know when you know something's off, and you're just okay.
You and I haven't even been together long, and we do this to each other.
Yes.
What's wrong? I can tell.
Yep. That's because I'm sensitive a little bit. Not really. I'm just bullshitting. But anyway.
I'm not sensitive. I'm just someone who is observant of the people around me.
Mm-hmm. So she, of course, asks him, what's wrong? And he says he just has a feeling. And she's like, well, what kind of feeling? And the only word he says is fear. But he assures her that, it's just like a feeling. So it's nothing to worry about, dear. So
it's rough because he's entering a job where he's actively seeking out danger.
Mm-hmm.
Also, side note, if you want to know a really interesting book from a cop who dealt with exorcisms, I have that on my phone. And it's a really interesting book.
Ooh.
It's very creepy, and he's somebody who started out as like a non-believer, and he just started seeing things when he was a cop in New York that he realized were definitely more than normal, like more than drugs and more than mental illness.
Oh.
And he ended up getting involved in exorcisms and stuff. It's a really cool book.
That's pretty awesome.
I'll look it up and tell you at the end.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, it's his first week. He's entering a career where people can shoot at you. Mm-hmm. Fear is not unreasonable.
This is true. So he has to work. Later that evening, a man named Bill Ramsey is on his way back to the taxi company he works for. He suddenly feels like a sharp pain in his chest, and he just pulls over like to try to calm himself down. He tries to compose himself, but it just keeps getting worse. Like his breathing is now ragged, and he's covered in cold sweat, and he thinks he's going to die.
Oh gosh. So
he puts his car in the drive, and he heads to the nearest ER. When he arrives in the parking lot, the pain just gets worse. This time, moving up his right arm, he finally makes it to the entrance of the ER, and he feels this freezing sensation growing from his legs up to his torso.
Okay.
The nurses see him, and they're visibly worried. They get him on a stretcher or gurney, and they try to get him, to a room. They're asking along the way, they're asking if he's feeling okay now, if he's feeling any better. He says, I guess so. And when he starts to feel what is the face you're making?
I guess so. That is not what you should be asking a patient. You're supposed to be asking, what is your pain level? Is it the sad face or is it the happy face? Is it the angry face or is it the happy face? Where are you on the scale of pain? That's what they asked me when I went to the ER.
Oh, I did forget to mention all this is happening in London, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, I forgot to write it down. I also forgot to remind myself to mention it. But yeah.
That's okay.
So I'm happening in London.
Okay. Maybe in England they don't have the little happy face scale like we have in the United States. I'll allow it.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, he says he guessed so. And then he feels a rumbling in his stomach, like gas or, whatever.
Horribleness.
Yeah.
Correct.
And soon it starts to travel up his body. And the whole time he could feel it just getting stronger and stronger.
Feels feel terrible listening to this. What is going on?
Just wait. Just wait. So it finally makes it to his mouth, and it comes out as a mighty roar. Like a roar.
Yeah. Like those demon roars you see on the TV shows.
Or a growl, yes. So the nurses, they're shaking. Like, they stumble back just a little bit. And the feeling comes back into his stomach, like the rumbling. And when the roar comes out this time, he can feel his hands, like, they starts to curl into, like, claws or paws.
So
and
what does this have to do with the cop?
And he even swipes at a nurse. So, like, they eventually get him, like, sort of settled down. As soon as he's, like, laid back down on the gurney. Sorry, pages.
It's okay.
He sits up and he bites one of the nurse's arms. Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's, like, really bad. Like, her arm is, like, soaked in blood now.
Oh, my God.
So, he was, like, locked onto her like a wild animal. So, the other nurse runs off for help. Now, our cop friend from earlier enters the scene. Apparently, his shift was at the hospital.
Oh, no.
He can hear the nurses screaming and an animal growling.
Okay.
But when he gets closer, he can see a crazed man cornering the two nurses, and, like, standing over them. So the cop and an intern who, I guess, that had just shown up, they make up a plan to strap the man down to the gurney. They, of course, struggle with him. Bill tries to bite the cop, and they finally get him strapped down. Now, the cop would go on to say that all he could think of when he saw the man was that he looked like a wolf.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, let's go back in time a little bit.
Okay.
That was a great story, right?
This is terrible. Don't like it.
Bill's 9 years old here. He was a boy with a very active imagination, like any other child, of course, at 9 years old. One day he's coming home from the movies. He plans on playing pretend a little bit in his backyard when he feels this coldness take over his body. He describes it as, like, if you walked into, like, a meat locker after, like, being outside in the hot sun.
Okay.
And, like, just hits his body.
Gotcha.
Oh, and guess what accompanies this coldness? Any guess? A foul stench.
Oh, of course. Ugh.
Yeah. So,
okay.
So, he later describes it as, he said later on in his life, he smelt septic tank backup, or, like, the sewer backup.
Ew.
And
we talked about that, though, last time, about feces being the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it was the fart smell.
I mean,
what's that?
Close enough. Sulfur.
Fart smell. But you said it's
sulfur in the feces.
You said excrement and pee.
Yeah.
And you would find pee in your house. That's so that's so.
I mean, it's not just
disrespectful,
pee.
Demons.
It's excrement, so it's all that stuff.
I'm just saying, it's so disrespectful, Demons. Really?
Oh, goodness. So, yeah, he gets that foul stench. That he said that later on in life, when he smelled a sewer backup, that's the same smell he smelled when this happened to him. He could tell something was different about him now. Like, as soon as that coldness came on him.
There we go.
But actually, the feeling and the smell go away for a little bit. Later at night, Bill is still outside. It's nighttime. It's dark outside.
Mm-hmm.
The stars are up. Out.
Okay.
I mean, he's not playing at all. He's just standing there, staring at the stars.
Okay.
And he can feel the coldness, like, rising up inside of him again.
Okay.
And he can also see, like, visions of a wolf just flash in his eye, in his mind.
He's a baby. He's a child.
He's 9. But yeah.
Now I have more things to worry about if my child presents weird things. It's if your kid burns stuff, if they hurt animals, if they wet the bed, if they begin thinking they're a wolf. What other things do I have to worry about might prove my child is nuts?
Everything.
This is horrible. Maybe I should just not do that.
Oh, goodness. Oh. So he hears his mom calling his name from the inside, and he starts getting irritated by her voice.
Okay.
So he turns to go in, and he trips over a fence post. No, he's pissed. Because, I'm irritated by my mom's voice. Now I'm going in to see what the hell she wants. Now I just fucking tripped over his fence post. Oh, hell no. Now I'm mad. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what he does is a very rational thing for a 9-year-old, I think. So he rips the fence post out of the ground and starts swinging it around.
He shouldn't have been able to do that at
He's 9.
Those are normally, buried deeply into the ground.
Yes. He ripped out a deeply dug fence post from the ground. Oh, no. His mom was freaking out. His dad is freaking out.
You can stay outside, fam. No worries.
Oh, my God. His mom.
Here's a pillow.
They're both freaking out. At this point, he was tearing into the post. So not only was he swinging it around, he was tearing into it with his hands. He was trying to rip it apart, and then with his mouth too. His parents, they try to get closer to him. He calms down a little bit, and he feels a rumbling coming.
Wait a second. If this already happened when he was just a child, he should have been aware of the rumbling when it happened last time. I'm just saying.
Oh, goodness. Where was that? Oh, yeah, he feels rumbling coming, and he growls at them. So they went into the house and they locked him out. I think later on, he completely calms down, and the parents are like, I don't know if I want to let him in. But they eventually let him in. They hug it out, and nothing after that happened until his trip to the ER. Apparently.
Okay, wait.
Yes.
We not going to stop by the doctor's office, take him to a therapist or something. He was very violent. I need answers if this happens from my child.
Yeah.
Well, it hasn't happened again, so that was just a one-time.
Yeah, it's a one-time thing.
A one-time thing where, what's his name again?
Bill Ramsey.
Bill just thought he was a monster for one night.
So, I got from different sources information. So one source has this, one source doesn't have it. So I'm just gonna.
Gotcha.
So apparently after the ER, somehow.
I feel like in the ER they would have definitely pulled a psych consult.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Like they would have taken him to somewhere.
Yeah, they wouldn't have just let him go.
No. And so apparently they let him. I don't know how, because I didn't read the whole thing, but apparently after the ER, he goes to turn himself in.
He tries to get himself committed
after the ER. Yeah.
Okay.
And he picks up a prostitute on the way for reasons.
Murder reasons.
Then he heads to it doesn't say, it just said he picks up a prostitute, and he heads to the police station. He demands to be locked up. He wolfs out, and it takes about 6 people this time to restrain him. So either way.
Okay, here's my thing,
yes.
And this really infuriates me. When the person who is freaking out is a white guy, cops will do everything in their power to subdue him without a gunshot. This man killed his grandfather and cut off his ears and was like, look at these ears.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And they were like, we going to tase it. It took 4 cops to tase him and put him on the ground and cuff him.
Oh my God.
He murdered a man. At least here in this situation, this guy hasn't hurt anybody yet.
Not yet.
He's just being a weirdo.
Yeah.
Like, don't shoot the weirdo. But like, for real, in my story, the man murdered somebody and y'all, we had to take him down. You shoot everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. They sure as fuck do.
It's just very upsetting. It's fine. It just reminded me of the thing from earlier, which made me mad again.
What are you going to do?
Who knows? We got Stockholm Syndrome from America.
The fuck we do? I'm about to get the fuck out of here. Anyway.
I'll go with you, honey. Here? I'll go with you, baby.
All right. Well, I guess I see the door open. I'm out. What are you talking about? Someone kidnaps me and leave the door open. I'm not going to stay there.
Oh, yeah. I know. I see what you mean.
I'm not going to make excuses for this place either. Hell no.
We'll have to talk about that another time. We'll have to cover some Stockholm Syndrome cases.
Okay, but I'm just saying because I just want to say
it's a major psychological thing.
Yeah,
but let's continue. So
okay.
Bill had another. Bill demands to go to he wolfs out at the police station.
Yes. Okay, so either way, whichever story is added to it, he ends up going to Runwell Mental Hospital.
Okay.
So there are doctors there that run tests on him, and the only logical conclusion they can come up with was clinical lycanthropy.
Okay, so they're just like, this is a dude who thinks that he's a wolf.
Yeah, that's the only reasonable thing.
What does Bill say about this? When they're like, he's like, something's wrong with me, right?
Yeah.
But is he saying, I think I'm a wolf?
I think that's what he was telling them.
Okay.
He sees visions of wolves. He feels like a wolf when this happens.
Okay. Because I'm like, if this is just somebody who's like, I don't know what's wrong with me, and they're like, you obviously think you're a wolf. Like, no, I don't. I just know that something's not right.
Right. Yeah, no, I don't think it was like that. So the media dubbed him the Werewolf of Southend.
Oh.
So if you look it up, you can look up the Werewolf of Southend.
I feel like I've seen that title.
You probably have.
Did he kill people?
I don't think so. It doesn't say.
Because that's normally where my searches show names.
Yeah, that's not the story I got.
Okay.
But if you look it up, there's a book, of course, it's called Werewolf, A True Story of Demonic Possession, and it's by Bill Ramsey, Ed Warren, and Lorraine.
Oh, so he helped write. Oh, so he was saved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
God damn it. Yes.
Listen, some of your stories, you've given me false hope and things died. That poor dog who got eaten by the Mothman in episode 3. I was like, you're like, oh, I was like, yeah, he died from old age. And then literally he died 30 seconds later.
I don't know why it's
so
still
at least
funny to
here's
me.
A story where somebody lived.
Oh my God, it's still funny to me. Oh, okay. Anyway. Excuse me, I hit my mic.
Poor dog.
So now we go to the U.S.
Okay.
Lorraine Warren sees a documentary about this case, and she has a different answer.
Oh, so she immediately thinks that this is something otherworldly.
Yes. Demons.
Oh, wow. That's weird for them.
That's right.
They don't normally go out of their way.
I know, right? This has got to be demonic possession. So they fly Bill out to Connecticut.
Oh, they bring him to their house.
Yeah, this is okay. So
they're doing a whole lot of things they don't normally do.
This is weird. So they didn't bring him to their house though. So one part I saw that they either went out or he came to them, but I'm thinking that it's true that he went to Connecticut.
Right.
And
maybe hung out at a church. You know?
Yeah. No, they went to a church. So he comes to Connecticut to get his exorcism done.
Right.
Accompanied by.
I'm guessing it probably doesn't work the first time.
No, it does. It does.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they're accompanied by a bishop, camera crew, and police officers, just in case, he wolves out again.
Yeah, this is important.
Yeah. So Bill begins, and like when they begin to start the exorcism, Bill begins to turn. He's fighting, of course, as they're trying to exorcise the demon. They prayed to make this demon spirit leave his body. Bill finally feels that like the coldness that he's been experiencing suddenly like start leaving his body, and he could feel warmth again. So finally it leaves him. After the exorcism, there wasn't any more activity. So I mean, but he was 9 when it happened the first time, and then there wasn't anything, and then later on, like 1983, I said. Yeah. So let's see. So maybe it was a demon werewolf or demon beast, an inhuman spirit, basically, possessing his body, because they don't have to be like an actual like werewolf, but you know what I mean.
No, it's just,
or like either it was a werewolf or a demon possessing his body, or it was clinical lycanthropy.
But then why would exorcism work?
I don't know. Oh, and
did he have a normal life after this?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Oh, I already mentioned the book. I was going to mention the book again, but yeah.
Yeah. You said that you wrote a book with Ed and Lorraine.
Yeah, it's called Werewolf: The True Story of Demonic Possession. Okay, so that's the story of werewolf possession.
Okay.
So you guys got your story. You guys got your little case. I wanted to talk about some of the tea, if I can, with the Warrens.
Okay.
All right. So there are skeptics out there.
Oh yeah, of course.
And like you can't be a paranormal investigator without skeptics. So in comes. I'm gonna talk about this one society that talked about the Warrens, and it's called the New England Skeptical Society.
Oh.
NESS. NESS.
Okay.
It's based in New England, of course.
Of course. Where so many of them are.
Yeah.
TAPS. The Warrens have a whole paranormal society too.
Oh, but this is a skeptical society.
Right. I've never heard of the skeptical society, but there's a lot of paranormal societies for some reason on the East Coast.
Well, that's where all the lovely ghost stuff happens.
A lot of things.
So this was founded in 1996.
Okay.
So this nonprofit organization aims to use science and reason to get to the bottom of things. See where I'm going with this?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So what's their reasoning? What do they think is the werewolf?
Well, okay. Well, they weren't talking about the werewolf case in this point. This is just them doing an investigation into the Warrens.
Oh, okay.
Well, since the Warrens were from the same area, they're in Connecticut.
Right. So
they're like, well, they decided to investigate them. Like, we're going to pop over. Like, you guys are our neighbors, so we might as well come check you out first. So in 1997, Ness goes to do just that. I went to their website, and okay, so apparently they have a podcast too. I didn't listen to any episodes, but so they go to so their report on their website. They say that what we found was a very nice couple, some genuinely sincere people, but absolutely no compelling evidence. Or more precisely, there was a ton of evidence, air quotes, but none of it stands up to the rigorous scientific testing, and most of it not even to cursory testing. So they're saying their evidence that they were given from the Warrens wasn't really evidence.
I mean, this is the issue with the whole skeptical concept, right? You want evidence. You want scientific evidence. Well, like legitimately, before we had a telescope, people were struggling to understand the concept of other planets or things of that nature. So maybe the evidence you're looking for, we can't get it because we don't have the scientific items to gain that evidence.
That's a very good observation.
Like thousands of years ago, they wouldn't have believed that we had these tiny little phones where you're probably listening to this podcast.
Probably not. But so before their visit to the Warrens, they were told that the Warrens had scientific evidence that
they have pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah, but
even pictures from like way back, like when they like the 70s or the 60s.
Yes, but they were told that they were scientific evidence.
I feel like that's evidence. Listen, it's fine. I just happen to love the Warrens.
I know. I'm sorry. I know you're.
No, it's not that. It's just like so frustrating because like this is evidence. Apparently not good enough for y'all. Okay, fine.
I mean, okay, like we're not getting into this.
Well, you're not one of those people. I'm just saying.
Skeptics. I mean, I can see their reasoning and their logic behind things.
Oh, it's the same people who are like, I believe in God, and they're like, there's no proof. Yes, there's no proof. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, there's no proof.
Have no beliefs?
I mean, I don't. So do what you want. Oh. Anyway, yeah, like I said, they said they had evidence that proved the existence of ghosts. So, so Ness was like, "Oh, word! All right, we're here for that shit. Let's go." So, I'm just gonna say that I read their report on their website, like I said. I'm just gonna say that it came off as. I don't know how to like when I wrote this, I didn't know how to explain it.
Just explain it.
I wouldn't say it came off like God, like what's that word? Like they didn't like the Warrens or something like that. It just came off like very skeptical and very God. Help me out here. I'm trying to come up with a word. That's an already a word. Like it was like they. You know how when you're like, okay, have you ever lied to your parents?
Of course.
Okay, and they're just like, okay, yeah, we believe you. You know, stuff like that, like very like facetious esque. You know what I'm saying?
Facetious.
I know how to say facetious. I'm just trying to like.
I don't think it's the right
facetious,
word.
But no, it's not. But it's like they're just like, okay, well, they said this stuff, but I'm guessing whatever they said. Anyway, it just came off like very
flippant.
There you go, or like they're just throwing shade on them a little bit. I could have just said shade. It just came to my head. Anyway, so they start out going to the Warrens' basement museum, being warned not to touch anything.
They touched everything.
So Ness finds it, difficult to touch, like not to touch anything because it's packed with stuff. And like Ness writes that the Warrens had a lot of ghost stories, which they tried to pass off as evidence. They were shown some physical evidence that that they God, stuttering.
Well, the only reason why I said they use pictures and like audio and stuff is because that's how they were able to get like approval from the church.
Right, to do exorcisms.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
so like they had to prove something to the
Absolutely,
diocese.
because the church isn't going to just
they
put their
didn't just
neck
say
out
like,
for
oh,
anything.
sure, yeah, we'll totally send a priest out. Like they definitely didn't just do that.
Exactly. So
So
the church had
be...
to have believed this as well.
Yeah.
And very convincing. So yeah, they showed them pictures, of course, and you know, they take them and they do studies on the pictures that the Warrens would show them. You know, some of the pictures could be like explained away by like a light refraction or something like that. There was
orbs are always dust.
Yeah, exactly. Now there was a video that they showed Ness. It was of, I guess, one of their researchers that they had with them.
It's the same way that when you show me like Facebook pictures that are like, look, here's a ghost picture, and I'm like, that's not a ghost picture. It's too good to be a ghost picture.
Oh, I did that earlier. I did show you a picture like that. I was like, I know it's fake, but
I was like, that's just too good to be a ghost picture. Ghosts are always very blurry.
Yeah.
Something about trying to, you know, make it through the veil makes them extra blurry.
Exactly. Something with the veil. It's the veil, of course.
Obviously.
But anyway, so the Warrens, what Ed, he told them that he had a video of, I think, an exorcism or something like that, and you know, I think he was like, I don't even want to watch it, and they're like, well, can you let us watch it? And he's like, no. Like, he was very, like, some of his stuff he was just very secretive with. He wouldn't let them look at, and he wouldn't let them take to research it either. So that was a little.
Here, take all my shit and run your test on it, and run it through filters and other random
you think they're
things.
going to mess it up?
Yeah, especially like stuff that was done on analog.
That's true. You had
Yeah, we're talking about analog systems, not like, oh, I'll give you a copy of this video I took on my iPhone.
Yeah,
that is not how that worked back then. So like sometimes, like essentially using a VHS tape repeatedly degraded it. Watching it over and over actually caused it to degrade over time.
Yeah, this is true. But he did show them a video. It was of one of his crew.
Okay.
That mysteriously, like, in 1 second he was there, and the next second he was gone.
Oh, that's creepy.
So like he dematerializes in front of the camera. So, and they're like, okay, can we take this one to, like, you know, do it, like, look at it closely? And he's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So what they found out is that it was a malfunction in the camera. Okay. So apparently it turned off and it turned back on, like, as that guy was, like, walking by or something like that. And, like, when it turned back on, he was gone. So it turns off.
Which is still weird, though.
The camera? I mean, it's true.
Sorry, I went to college for photography. I know a lot about old cameras.
I'm getting all the angry vibes from Brittany right now.
It's not. What you're getting is like my response to the skeptics, and more than likely the skeptics' response to me. We have the same energy, back and forth with each other. That's why I don't really engage in conversation. Like when people are like, "This is fake," I'm like, "Fine, whatever."
Yeah, she's just. I just feel like the defensive coming from.
Oh, I'm mad defensive.
I know.
I'm defensive about Ed and Lorraine.
Mm-mm.
I love them.
Which is fine. You can. Oh my goodness.
They're my favorite ghost people. Also, that one cop about that book I'm going to tell you about later.
So the president, his name's Stephen Novella, and I guess one of the other founders, Perry DeAngelis, they write that even though Ed talks about having evidence or scientific evidence, he doesn't even do basic scientific research into his claims of, like, he doesn't, you know what I mean? So he doesn't, what, your eyebrows, he just doesn't, he doesn't even think about, like, it could not be a possession, or it could not be a demon, or it could not be a ghost or something. Like, he just, like, what they felt was that he just jumped straight to ghosts.
Right, except he doesn't. When people come to them, you have to have exhausted all other options before he will even begin to bring in people and do a ghost investigation. Also, what am I supposed to do? Like, literally, I see a ghost. Like, how am I supposed to prove this to you?
Oh my God. I don't.
How could you describe it to somebody who had never heard of that before? So listen, I know we're in the same room right now. Behind you, there is somebody. You can't see them, but I can see them. The person's like, well, take a picture. Here's a picture. Nobody's behind you, but I can see that somebody. Like, there's no way to explain this logically that makes like pure logical sense. You're acting on faith, which is super upsetting for some people.
Right.
I'm cool with the concept of there's a bunch of stuff out there in the world that I don't understand. I'm probably never going to understand it, and I'm okay with that. I find people who need to have all those answers very frustrating. Because it's impossible to explain all of human understanding or everything that exists in all of the galaxies. Like, there's stuff we didn't know about space. There's stuff we still won't know about space.
That's true.
There's this one.
Not in our lifetime.
What is Neil deGrasse? Oh, there's this one astrophysicist. He's a Japanese guy. And he does this speech where he talks about the concept of impossible. And he said that there's absolutely nothing that is impossible. Enough time just hasn't passed yet. It's a really lovely speech. You can find his TED Talk somewhere on YouTube probably. Okay. But that like things that like before we had penicillin, the concept of fighting infection was impossible. Mm-hmm. You got an infection and your ass was dead.
And you died.
Yeah. And so then all of a sudden we found the science and the technology for things. So like I am a very logical person, but I am also a person who works on, I guess, feelings too. Mm-hmm. So like I really liked that idea behind that of maybe I won't know about this thing in my lifetime. Maybe I won't experience this understanding in my lifetime, but it's thoroughly plausible that 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years from now, we will have some of the answers we are looking for.
I believe you're right.
That's just how I feel.
Yeah. Okay.
I gotta find him now. He has this really good speech.
I'm going to read to you part of their report. I'm sorry, I gotta do it because it just explains like what they meant about like him not having like scientific research. Okay, so this is about eyewitness testimonies. Mm-hmm. So vastly outnumbering the Warrens' low-grade physical evidence is their copious anecdotal evidence. They are great tellers of ghost stories, leading in no small measure to the popularity on a lecture circuit. Oh my God, this is long. My bad. I should have read this. They do seem to understand, however, that the case for the reality of ghosts will never be made by stories alone. In this respect, however, the Warrens are typically of the majority of people who are compelled by a gripping story and lack a deep understanding of how flimsy and unreliable human memory and perception really is. Good skeptics, like good scientists, strive to increase their awareness of such weaknesses so that they can be controlled in the quest of knowledge, of course. Ed and his ilk, on the other hand, are continuously seeking the reliable witness, but even pilots, firefighters, police chiefs, and physicians, however, are just people. Their gray matter is the same as everyone else's. In short, memory is fallible. This is due to the fact that all of our perceptions are filtered through our own unique polyglot. Polyglot?
Is that what it is?
It says, polyglot. Yeah, polyglot.
Polyglots are people who speak multiple languages.
Oh.
Like a lot of languages.
That's a new vocabulary word I did not know about. Anyway.
So. Wait, let me double check.
Of prejudices, preconceptions, misconceptions, insecurities, and physical frailties. The mind can dilute, mix up, and even manufacture memories, and we have no way to determine which is which without external verification. There is no way to distinguish a delusion from a hallucination, from a vivid dream, from a genuine experience. So later on, they mention in here that so they said
that's such an interesting thing to say, though, because he doesn't feel like an hallucination or a vivid dream is a valid experience. I think they are experiences. They're just experiences that they can't share with someone else. So if we are both sitting in the room and I have a hallucination, it's valid to me.
Yeah.
I'm experiencing it. You just can't share it with me. So they feel like unless they can share the exact experience that maybe Lorraine Warren is having, that her experience cannot be valid.
They're scientists. So yes, this is how they feel.
Also, the person I was talking about with the theory of impossible, his name is Michio Kaku. He's a theoretical physicist. I had him confused with Neil deGrasse Tyson's title of astrophysicist. There's lots of different physicists.
Okay. I
do not begin to even know anything about that aspect of science. But it's interesting because I find a lot of scientists very interesting and I listen to them. People always ask like what kind of podcasts I listen to. Mm-hmm. I listen to theoretical physicists and astrophysicists.
You should see her face. She's so excited.
I'm super interested in things like this. This explains some things to me, like what they were saying. So I think, I think they fail to understand the purpose of what Ed and Lorraine were doing. It was not to spread understanding to the world or explain ghosts and demons. Sure, they wrote a couple of books. They were mainly for entertainment, if we're really honest. They were trying to make money. I think when they were just working, like with that guy, Bill, they were just trying to help him. They don't necessarily need the endorsement of the rest of the world or its acceptance. And I'm sure the both of them knew that they weren't going to be accepted or treated with much respect, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
Whenever you say that you see things that other people don't see, people don't really take you at your word, But yeah, it's interesting. They're like, yeah, you just go off of anecdotal evidence. I'm like, also, you're saying, hey, you can't rely on human memory, which they're absolutely right, which is why eyewitness testimony is bullshit. But that's why they had recording devices there. That's why they had cameras. That's why they wrote things down in books. Like they were trying to secure these things for memory usage because they knew that by the time Lorraine was 80 years old, she wasn't going to remember what happened in Amityville, New York.
Right, yeah.
So like they were attempting to do that with the limited resources they had. I mean, 2021, we have like things that detect seismic stuff. I mean, look at the stuff they use on ghost TV shows now. They didn't have that in the 50s and 60s. They were very limited with the things they could use to get that evidence that these people want. I would love to see what they think of some of the things that Zach Bagans uses on his TV show.
Oh my God.
He is always bringing in a new device that somebody created to try and figure out where ghosts are. Or this reads these waves and this reads this sort of, and this is listening to these kind of sound. I just would love to know what they think about that. Because Zach Bagans is trying to give them what they want. Yeah. Real raw data.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I mean, look, your argument is valid.
No. I don't think I will listen to their podcast or read more of their stuff, but part of me is also very interested to know what they think. Unfortunately, with that TV show, it's curated for massive entertainment,
right?
Not necessarily for what they want. But like, I'm sure there's other like ghost hunters out there who are using that kind of stuff, and they're not making TV shows. They're just hunting for their own, edification.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what they think of those people and what those people are doing and bringing into the world.
I didn't read all of it.
I didn't read
all their other stuff. All right. There's another part to this.
Oh gosh.
Okay. There's still more. So they bring in sleep stuff, right?
Like a sleep study, or
okay. So there was a case, a guy named Jack Smurl.
Mm-hmm.
He's investigated by the Warrens.
Mm-hmm.
Who relate the tale of awakening in the early morning, being paralyzed, sensing an entity in a room, being overcome with terror. Maybe like
sleep paralysis stuff.
There you go. Then being R-word by a ghost.
Oh, succubus, incubi, aren't this what they call them?
Yeah,
ghosts that
well,
have relations with people.
Demons, yes.
Yeah, incubus or succubus.
So apparently there's a well-described neurological phenomenon known as hypnagogia.
Oh, is that what the technical term for sleep paralysis is?
I think so. I'm not sure.
Because I know that like a lot of people I know have discussed, they literally call it their sleep paralysis demon.
Yeah.
Like that you see
meme.
You see things in your brain. Essentially, your brain is still dreaming, but your body is trying to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's a real thing. And I feel like you want to check that before you check everything else.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, like sleep paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
So what they say is that we offered this info to Ed as a possible alternate, explanation, mm-hmm. besides being like, held down by a ghost. He seemed intrigued. But he continued confidently, what about the pressure on the victim's chest when the entity was trying to get into them? Well, we were sorry to tell Ed that pressure on the chest and shortness of breath is also a well-described aspect of hypnagogia.
Yeah, yeah, okay, that is sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. And then you know what Ed says after, they tell him this? Oh.
I mean, he was also an older man, too.
This is true. I mean, it's 1997, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when was that even, like, diagnosed?
I don't know.
That'd be interesting to know. But yeah, that's...
So, yeah, this is, like...
But see, it's an interesting thing because it also pops up in relationship to other, like, mental illnesses and things, mm-hmm. which are things that that person should have already gone through that evaluation.
Yeah.
Like certain antidepressants can cause sleep paralysis. So if that person is on that, like we have a clear connection, like maybe you just need to be taken off this drug and put on a different one that's not half waking you up.
Exactly.
When like halfway through the night.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's
no
one's infallible,
No, absolutely. And they even mention it and they're like, yeah, like we don't expect people to be well versed in like sleep paralysis, but
I only know about it because this is something that's discussed in the paranormal community.
Yeah. But he did say, but we do expect it from someone who claims to be conducting scientific research in the field where such phenomena.
See, I don't think Ed ever claimed until they were like, he's like, I got some stuff for you. But I mean, he was I think he was more of a faith-based kind of guy.
I mean, yeah, that makes
sense.
He
was a science guy.
And they're like, yeah, Ed obviously never heard of this until we brought it up to him. Mm-hmm. So, and that's where they went with their, he doesn't do any like scientific research. So I'm not going to go any further into this. I mean, if you want to read this yourself, you can go to their website. It's called.
I mean, that does. They hit his credibility. They took a stab at his credibility.
Mm-hmm.
But I also will say, as far as the people go, I've kind of always been a Lorraine stan.
Okay. Yeah. Same.
And see,
I mean, this was supposed to be about Lorraine anyway, but there's a lot more about.
Well, that's what happened with me with this one. Like, I originally found out about the cult because I was looking up, Sarah Aldretti. And then I was like, well, You can't talk about the cult without talking about Alfonso. So,
Yeah.
oh well.
You can't talk about the Warrens without talking about both of
Well,
them.
yeah, because what she was doing was completely different, but what they were most known for was what he was doing, the demon shit.
Yeah. Anyway, they have a website. It's called thenest.com.
I figure you could just Google the name and find them. You said NESS.
Yeah, but you never know. It could be other Nesses. And the report that they wrote up, it's called Hunting the Ghost Hunters. And it's on there.
See, I wouldn't have even called them ghost hunters. I think of ghost hunters as like taps.
Mm-hmm. So Nest does end their report is part of it with a line from Ed, and he says, you can't have scientific evidence for a spiritual phenomenon. So
you really can't.
So I guess,
I mean, they tried, but I don't think it's ever going to give enough raw data that someone who is a pure scientist will ever be happy with.
No, absolutely not. And I guess you guys can just decide for yourself if you want to believe all the tales / the evidence that the Warrens give, or be skeptical about it. And that is what I have for the Warrens.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
I mean, I was expecting more from the wolf situation.
No,
they didn't give any details about the exorcism. Like, what happened?
I'm sure if you read the book, there's more info in it. I didn't get the book this time because I wasn't really that looking. It wasn't.
You gave us the Cliff Notes version.
I really did.
Joking.
I really did. Definitely Cliff Notes version, because like in the Demonologist, this wasn't. I don't think this was a story in that book.
Oh, so you picked a different story from the one from there. It's different. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's just something to think about. Like, you can be possessed by a demon, and it make you think that you're a werewolf or a monster. It's also
just interesting, our conversations tonight. It very much happened accidentally. I didn't go into this. I didn't go into the research this week knowing where that story would take me. So that's kind of funny. I think Alfonso Constanza definitely sort of believed some of what he was preaching.
Oh no, he definitely believed.
He believed some of it, but I think he also knew how to really scam folks.
Absolutely.
And you can say the same thing about Ed. I think he definitely believed a lot of what he was saying and what he believed, but I also think some of those books and things, they were
for cash. They were for
entertainment.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes maybe you have to bend the truth a little bit for the fun, for the books.
And that's where the skeptics come at you, though.
And that's where the skeptics come at you, though.
Goodness. But yeah.
That was our episode this week.
We had a great talk today, right?
Sorry, honey.
I feel like you're angry.
No, I'm not angry. No.
Oh my God, she's on.
I'm literally smiling at you.
I know, but that's a fake smile. You're gonna attack me later. Like, the fuck did you bring that shit up for?
Never. Come on now.
Oh my God.
As usual, though, if you happen to be a iTunes listener or Apple Podcast listener, we would love to have you review us. That only helps our podcast go higher up in the ranks. I think we noticed this week that now 47% of our total listener base is on Apple. So, hey, new listeners.
Hi, everybody.
And,
hi, Dr. Nick.
As usual, you can find us on, Twitch on Sunday. Foxy Trainer. You can find me on TikTok every day at Caught Podcast. You are welcome to support any of the number of the links in our description.
Right. Yes. You can
the Magic Clasp. You can leave us a message at anchor.fm/when killers get caught. We'd love to hear from you. And yeah, that's all.
Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.